Julie Edge is our next guest here, looking back on the last year and in our next section, looking forward. Julie Edge, Onchan MHK. We've been asked about the COVID thing first of all. So just to sort of, what are your thoughts on how the government and Cobra obviously handled it?
Yeah, no, obviously I think it's been handled very well. It was a bit slow at the start. I did feel that perhaps we should have had the borders closed at least a week before. I was concerned. I know certainly myself as a backbencher, I was sending emails not just to the Chief Minister but to the whole of Council of Ministers saying please get the borders closed. The temperature of our residents was rising and it was the right decision, and I think from there going forward we've there's been some difficulties, and obviously with the emergency powers legislation
was that handled correctly, do you think? I mean, did they have it just a little too long?
Yeah, I wasn't actually at the first sit-in. I think it was the 23rd of March, and I was emailing colleagues saying tell them to get the Public Health Act up to date because that protects us. We could have put a clause in that a notifiable disease was COVID, but subsequently I think they've realised that there is updates that need doing to the Public Health Act. And I was also one of the first members to actually amend emergency powers legislation, and my colleagues were saying you can't do that, and actually once they realised yes we could, we certainly got more amendments coming through after that. So I think to be fair, it was fast moving and everybody worked well together, and I think actually we can be proud for what we've done for the people of the island, but we just need to keep it up.
Okay, we're going to look back now. Now, remind me what you were on, because obviously you're still in the post office, it's chairman of that, but you have changed a bit, haven't you, in the last 12 months?
Yes, I resigned from the Department of Infrastructure. I wasn't removed, as my colleague from Onchan said, and I do want to correct that on the tape.
Should we do this right now then? Because
yes,
there has been a definite different opinion, and it was about the interview, wasn't it, here on MTTV?
Yeah.
He said one thing. This is about Rob Collister.
Yeah, he was quite clear. He said that I'd been removed from the department. I wasn't removed from the department. I resigned from the department. Right. I actually stayed at the department.
He apologised for that, I think, didn't he?
I'm not sure that's been done on camera. So
okay.
I wasn't removed. I actually stayed at the department a few days longer than I really wanted to, because if I'd have resigned at the same time as Mr. Morehouse, the department wouldn't have been legal. Right. So and I did explain that to the minister, and at the end of the day, the way the minister handled it was appalling. It was clear. Tim Baker. Yeah, it was very clear that he was immature in his approach to.
Immature.
Well, I felt I felt that, considering he'd been made a minister, he should have been very aware of the way to handle things. If he wanted to bring somebody in to do the role I was doing, he should have been clear about that instead of trying to do it the way that it was done. It was just done in a meeting, still waiting for the minutes of the meeting.
Would you have been sacked if you hadn't have resigned then? Or would you just
I was offered opportunity to take anything else that was left. Now, bearing in mind that Housing and Public Estates was the only division of the department that was working effectively, operating within budget, and I felt very well managed. It was a strange thing to do, to bring an MLC to do that. And then to say, well, qualifications matched it. Well, didn't my qualifications match it for 4 years, wasn't it? So, but I understand a new minister coming in, they might want to make changes. But there was no way I was going to stay around and be treated like that and just, ignored, really.
In question time, the body language between you two is not very happy, is it? I mean, you're not impressed.
Well, obviously I've worked alongside Tim for 4 years, and I expected a bit more respect from him, to be quite honest.
What else happened? Because you were on other departments, were you? Was that it? No.
No. It was housing and infrastructure.
Right. So you're now not on any department?
I'm a backbencher apart
you've
from
gone
the post office. So yes, took a pay cut to do that.
That's a moral stand then?
Well, it is. It's principles stand, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to be beholden to Howard Quayle and his government. I'm going to do what's right and what the people of Onchan have put me there to do. So. I've taken a pay cut, but I didn't go into politics. I took a pay cut when I went into politics, so I didn't go into politics for the pay. I went in to do the right thing, and I will continue to do that.
Okay, now let's talk about the post office a little bit, because it's been a bumpy year in places as well for that. You've been getting quite a lot of flack.
Yeah. No, obviously we've had good success with the post office now. It was difficult. We've had a lot of challenge in Tynwald. I actually think my Tynwald colleagues are starting to actually understand the post office a little bit more. It's quite clear that sometimes they don't read the reports that are put in front of them, but our strategy is working.
Getting back into question time, you seem quite feisty on this when someone asks you a question. You don't seem very happy with the questions.
Well, it's just so frustrating when you've either answered it before or it's clear they haven't even read it, or they don't even bother to come to the post office and establish what's... whenever I put a question in, I know it can be answered. And I find sometimes it's just grandstanding, to be honest. But we've had great success in the post office. I can actually say I'm the one politician that's challenged pensions and made changes to pensions. And that was the right thing to do, because that was to protect it for the individuals going forward. All our employees, their pensions, or instead of leaving it like government and look at the mess we're in, we've challenged it early, and hopefully that'll protect it for the future. So that their pensions, obviously they've had to pay additional contributions, but I've actually closed the scheme for new members, so and nobody can take the benefits that were previously there. So,
are you happy staying there?
Yes. There's a motion on the order paper for this month, which is quite disappointing the way it's been headed up, to be honest. But I know the member doesn't get the say in what goes on the order paper, but it's an independent panel for the post office. Now, this has been put forward by Chris Robertshaw. So, an independent panel is formed to look at the relationship between the sub-postmasters and the government and the post office. Now, I know where Mr. Robertshaw's coming from. I know what he really wants to achieve, but it's not about the post office.
What does he want to achieve?
He wants to make government stand up and make sure there's services in communities for the people. Okay. And we all want that. So there is ways of doing it, but it's what it is. It's on the order paper, and we'll have to deal with that. So. Okay.
We better deal with your colleague now on this thing, because every year I ask you and I ask Mr. Collister how you're getting on, and he gave a fairly favourable sort of response. I think this year you might say. In other years he may be a bit cooler. Is it a better working relationship at the minute?
Well, we're getting towards an election. We all, we need to look like we're working together. So certainly, we work differently.
There's no love lost then.
So well, certainly when he comes on an interview with yourself, Paul, and says I'm removed from a department, which is completely blatant inaccuracy. I think it's unfair, and I think he should have put that right. We've worked together on the Eastern Area Plan. I recently organised a public meeting in Onchan with regards to the situation and with the youths and that in Onchan, and he came along, and we've got to work together for the good of Onchan, and I will maintain a professional relationship.
Okay. What's the big issues there in Onchan? Is it the youth thing? I mean, I asked him this. Why Onchan seems to particularly have an issue?
It isn't just Onchan.
It can't be, can it?
No. It's island-wide. I think it's become more vocal in Onchan, and certainly with some of the situations we had sort of late August in Onchan, it's become more of an issue, and everybody was saying the commissioners should do this, the police should do that, MHK should do that, and I thought the best way to deal with that is call a public meeting and let the public come and speak to the actual individuals so that we can all work together. So the outcome from the meeting, which I'm pleased about, is I said we'll make sure there's an action plan going forward from the commissioners, the police and the MHKs to support it. We can't change what the police are doing, we can't change what the commissioners are doing, but what we can do is try and drive some change and support where necessary.
What else in the last year? Highlights, lowlights?
I suppose I'll start on housing. Certainly, housing waiting lists have decreased. I'm very keen to get a 5-year fixed rent policy approved so that rent can't be used as an election tool, which it always has been used with local authority elections and national. So I was keen to push that forward. I hope that continues. That is an important policy, I believe, that puts the tenant at the forefront of the policy rather than it's an annual battle to see. It'll be interesting to see if they maintain the policy that was set last year for the rent setting this year, bearing in mind it's an election year, but I have most years said I don't want any increase.
And quickly, disappointments? Yeah. You didn't get things done, or you missed targets, or you didn't, things didn't go your way, anything particular?
No, I wouldn't say there's any real disappointments. I'm disappointed that we haven't got as much done as a government as a whole, and I think there's a lot could have been done, but you do see that there's certain areas of the island and certain where ministers are, and that gets focused on more than other areas, you know. So I think that I'll just continue questioning. I've put a lot of questions in, motions, amending legislation. That's what we're there for, make sure we get the right policy.